What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 211.
211.
On this Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson, Tom Green with you on a post-game reaction Monday. Oklahoma won their SEC opener on Saturday. They beat Auburn in a chaotic, wild game. A lot to talk about, a lot to digest, a lot of conversation still going on 2 days later after said game. The return of Jackson Arnold. Oklahoma got the job done. We'll talk about all of it, the good, the bad, the concerning, the exciting, the controversial, I guess. A lot to kind of sift through with this one as Oklahoma found a way to beat Auburn. And we're going into the bye week now. Little time to do a little check-in, 4 games in. Where are we at? Can this team compete for an SEC title, playoff berth, more? We'll discuss a little bit here on the bye week as Oklahoma has started the year out 4-0. Heading into the bye. As we get started, a reminder as always to subscribe to Sooners Illustrated. You can do so at oklahoma.247sports.com. If you use the promo code SoonersPod60, you get 60% off a VIP membership for a year right now to both Sooners Illustrated and the entire 247 Sports Network. Phenomenal value, so make sure to use that promo code and sign up. Be along for the ride with us, our great community over Sooners Illustrated. Been a great start to the season, and going to be a lot more really fun games and a conversation to come. So be sure to jump in with us and be along for the ride the rest of the year, and obviously for a calendar year with that promo code SoonersPod60. All right, fellas, let's get into it. Oklahoma beats Auburn on Saturday, 24-17. Just a chaotic, wild game. The Sooners just kind of found a way. The defense wasn't incredible. The offense wasn't very good, but was good enough at the end of the game. And, you know, we talk about it going in on Friday, like probably this is what it's going to be like every single weekend of the SEC, one-score games in the fourth quarter. Can Oklahoma do what they need to win? Can they get the big score? Can they get the big stop? They did both of those things on Saturday, and they just found a way to kind of grind this one out and survive against Auburn. A wild and very entertaining college football game that Oklahoma just found a way to be a little bit better and get the win.
Yeah, I mean, SEC play, it's about, finding ways to win in the margins, win these close games. Sometimes you're going to need, a lucky break here or there, things to just, certain calls to go your way. And Oklahoma certainly, got some of those. I'm sure we'll get into some of the officiating there. But, the offense did enough, and it delivered when it needed to. Certainly with their back against the wall there after Auburn took a lead with about 7 minutes left. John Mateer went down and conducted a 6-play 75-yard touchdown drive to put them back ahead. And then the defense, they got after Jackson Arnold all night or all afternoon. Tied the school record with 9 sacks. And they closed it strong. They pinned their ears back and got after him on that final drive, back-to-back sacks to close it out and seal it with our Mason Thomas getting that safety to push the final margin to 7. But, I mean, you got to be happy that you come out of that game on top, obviously, because you're 4-0 heading into the bye week, get your first SEC win under your belt, and you have a chance to really evaluate kind of this first third of the season before you head into October with Kent State and then Texas. But there's a lot that they can improve on both sides of the ball, not just the offense, but the defense. There's a lot of areas that they're going to need to kind of work on heading into this bye week, even though I still think this defense is, almost, on the cusp of being elite, but they have some things they need to work on coming out of this game. And I think that's a good spot to be in. You don't want to be perfect or be peaking in, the fourth week of the season. So to have some areas that you need to improve on, I think is good for them, especially at this time in the schedule where you have a bye week and then you have Kent State to kind of work on some things moving forward.
They won a game where John Mateer didn't look like, the all-world quarterback, throughout the entire game. Sure. And that's not something that's happened in the past for Oklahoma that's had those, great quarterbacks around Heisman contention. They had to be great throughout the entire game, and they weren't. I mean, and when they weren't, they didn't win. So they got it in this one, and against an SEC team that's, I think, is pretty good. I don't know how they fell out of the top 25 after that contest. It seems a little weird, but overall, I think Oklahoma did enough to win this game, and that's a good sign. We talked about it with the defense. I'm a little disappointed that they changed one of the sacks at the end and kind of went back on. I was like, it's actually Jones, 9. Yeah. So, but it was overall a great performance. I mean, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, as I said in the post game recap, was like those guys are phenomenal on the interior. They really showed what they can do. And that was a big difference maker for this game because it just hurt the run game that Auburn wanted to get to. It was because of those guys kind of blowing up those plays, blowing up the inside. And that just changed the way that Auburn wanted to play. And it was up to like Cam Coleman to make amazing plays on the outside to really keep that offense going for them. So, I mean, it was just a good performance overall for Oklahoma. I know there's some things that you want to fix, some things that they didn't do well, that they did in last games, like tackling some of the Kendall Daniels in the backfield type of situations where he could have made a really good tackle for loss. Didn't happen. It was areas like that happened for the defense. But overall, you can't complain when you still get 9 sacks and hold a good Auburn team to 17 points overall. So I think it was a good one for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, look, going into the year when we did, kind of our final season thoughts, my main concern was when the chips are down, can they do it? Because we haven't seen Oklahoma do that a lot, frankly, in the Brent Venables era. They've done it at times, but the record of 1-score games kind of speaks for itself, right, coming into the season. And again, in this game, they're down for the first time all season with 7 minutes to go. And John Mateer and the offense delivered a drive to go take the lead, and then the defense closed it out. And again, they're going to play better teams. They're going to have to do this on the road eventually. They've been at home in these 2 big games so far, which is no doubt helped. The crowd was phenomenal. Auburn had, I don't know how many false starts ended up being, but a lot. And on the final drive, that factored in certainly as well. But it has to make you feel more confident if you're an Oklahoma fan to see when it was game on the line, this team rose to the occasion and they were the better team in the big moments in that final 7 minutes or so. So a lot to be encouraged by that. And again, the teams are going to get better. They're going to have to go on the road here eventually. Obviously, the Cotton Bowl is coming up in a couple of weeks. But, they got the big stop and the big score. They did both in this game. And so I think that's enough to excite you if you're an Oklahoma fan kind of moving forward as the games and the spots and the moments get bigger and bigger and bigger. We got to go right to the defense first, specifically the defensive line. So 9 sacks is what they ended up getting officially, which ties a program record. Man, I mean, it felt like more, and it could have easily been more. They took one away, which James just referenced, Marvin Jones's horse collar. They counted it originally, which they shouldn't have. The officials kind of marked it wrong, is why it went in the stats as counting, but they took it away. They did have another sack later that Oklahoma accepted a holding on, so it took that one away where that's a sack that they did get. So, but it doesn't go in the books. But anyway, semantics. They dominated. They completely dominated. David Stone and Jay Jackson were just animals. Dominic Williams was good in this game. Grayson Holton had a big sack late as well. Mason Thomas misses the first half, comes into the game, second play, destroys Jackson Arnold, gets the big safety to close it. Guys, this defensive line going into the year, we talked about it in the summer, was getting tabbed as maybe the best in the SEC, maybe the best in America. And we were like, man, we know it's going to be good, but that's a lot. It's playing like it right now. They completely dominated this game and were by far the biggest reason Oklahoma won. An unbelievable day for Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis's group. And they just took over this game and closed it out late.
Yeah, I mean, the sacks are going to get the headlines, and I think rightfully so. When you get 9 sacks and you only had 7 through the first 3 games, it's going to draw a lot of attention. Certainly, Mason Thomas, what he was able to do coming in fresh after halftime and really just make his presence felt was huge. Jaden Jackson, I know I highlighted him as a player to watch going into this game. 2.5 sacks, 5 tackles, just against a very good center in Connor Lew, who's probably going to be a first-round draft pick in April. But what they did against the run should not be overlooked. I mean, Auburn was a top 15 rushing offense coming into this game. They held them to 67 yards total, and that includes sacks, but also like 40 of those yards were on one play when Jeremiah Cobb broke off that long run, and Mason Thomas, great effort there to chase him down and save the touchdown. I think they had probably 4 missed tackles on that one play, but outside of that, they clamped down Auburn's rushing attack, and Auburn did not try to run the ball much. I think their running backs only had 13 carries. A lot of the rest of it was Jackson Arnold trying to make some things happen with his legs, but they just did a good job of trying to take away that run game and really try to make Jackson Arnold beat them with his arm. And to his credit, he made some good plays with his arm, but he also left some stuff on the board for Auburn there. But yeah, I mean, this defensive line, like so far a third of the way through the season, they're they're living up to those expectations of, can they be the best in the country? Can they be that dominant force? And I think one of the biggest things that's really been impressive is, I wrote about this morning, but Oklahoma has the best third down defense in the country right now. Opponents are converting less than 18% of their third down opportunities. 43% of drives have ended in a 3 and out, and that means on a Saturday, a lot of those were third and longs, and that is all about the defensive line being able to get that pressure and put them in opportune, put opposing offenses in opportune spots to try to convert that. I think they had 3 sacks on third downs on Saturday, a few other stops on run plays. It's just a really strong performance up front from those guys.
You want to know how good our Mason Thomas is? Josh, you and I go out to camp sometimes. We see like these one-on-one matchups where the defensive lineman goes after like the dummy that's behind the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
On the last sack, he went by himself. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I didn't notice
the other 2 guys didn't.
Grayson Halton said after the game that R. Mason said to them before the snap, I got this. let me operate, and they just kind of eased up. And then he just plowed through Mason Murphy, put a hand in his chest, brushed off the help block from Damari Alston, and just like pummeled Jackson Arnold. He did that by himself.
It sounds like a made up story, but then when you watch the play, he's the only one who rushes.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we see in those camps. Like that's exactly what we see. And he's just like, it was just great. I mean, it's like, that's how good he is. That's why he's been so hyped, because of what he can do, especially in those closing moments when you need a stop. He's the one guy that can do it. And he did it right there. I mean, that's part of what makes the defensive line so great that we've been talking about, was having him, as the anchor of that unit pretty much overall. Now, like I said earlier, Jaden Jackson, David Stone, those guys on the interior, Grayson Halton, they played well as well. But you got to have a guy like that, R. Mason Thomas, going out there when it's an obvious passing situation where you got to have somebody go out there and get after the quarterback. And he did it, and he did it by himself, it's just still crazy when you hear that story and then watch it back and go, oh my goodness, he really did that. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, like a third of his career sacks now have come in like 5% of his games against Auburn.
He's the closer, as they've called him.
He did not know about that nickname until I asked him about it after the game. He was like, "Wait, they call me that?"
He's done it a few times now. God, he's unbelievable. And it's the idea that he was like a cage dog in that first half, and in the second play, he just explode. The photos are all just incredible. He just like a monster coming over the top of Jackson Arnold. And, that final play too, not for nothing, but obviously it's a huge play. It's a safety to close out the game. But like, do you want Jackson Arnold throwing up a jump ball to Cam Coleman? No. I mean, so the fact he didn't even get a throw off, it's unbelievable what that group is doing. And that D tackle room, we talked about it. We did our position preview. Is it the best position on the team? I think it definitely has been. And that group is just balling, just straight up balling. Tom, you talked about last week. We probably don't give Jaden Jackson enough credit. He was phenomenal again. David Stone has made the leap. He is absolutely balling out there right now, looking like the 5-star that he was supposed to be. And then Dominic Williams doesn't get a lot of the headlines. He is disrupting a lot. And Grayson Halton is, I mean, those are 2 guys, Williams and Halton, that would be stars almost anywhere. But because of what Jackson and Stone are doing, they kind of go a little overlooked. Defensive line is just, it's incredible. It's incredible to watch, and it's just, I'm having a blast watching it because they're just blowing everything up. It's a joy. It's a joy.
You didn't even mention Taylor Wine.
Yeah, had the big sack early.
He got that third down sack to start the game, and really set the tone for that unit. And it was interesting because he got the start in place of R. Mason Thomas. It wasn't PJ Adewale. It was Taylor Wine lining up where R. Mason Thomas usually does, opposite Marvin Jones Jr.
Right.
So for him to get in there on that first drive and get that third down sack and force a 3 and out without R. Mason Thomas available in the first half, I think that was really big for them.
It's a fun group to watch. Taylor Wine sack on Arnold was a great crowd pop. I mean, it was like, holy moly, this place is just to get that early to come right out. Because, they started on offense in the Michigan game. So, which, that worked out well then as well if they went down the field and scored. But to get the defense right out there against Arnold, And to do that was awesome. Great way to start it. So the defensive line was incredible. Linebackers, obviously, Kip Lewis leads them in tackles. The only knock on the day, the only success Auburn really had at all was just throwing balls down the field to Cam Coleman. Do you guys have any concern there at cornerback? I mean, Cortland Guillory, that's a tough matchup. And we talked about it on the game preview going in.
Yep.
Cam Coleman, golly, as advertised, that guy's going to play in the NFL for sure. Just the contested catches. He got the better of that matchup, obviously, on Saturday. I mean, Gentry Williams goes out the very end of this game, which got Devon Jordan in there a little more. He got beat a couple times. There was one time where Cam Coleman completely cooked Jordan and was wide open for a touchdown. Arnold just missed him down the field. Mm-hmm. Any questions about cornerback moving forward, or was this just Cam Coleman is really good?
I think so. It's very much Cam Coleman being a future first-round NFL draft pick. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the catch radius and all that. Sure. Oklahoma was probably fortunate that he didn't have close to like 200 yards and like 3 touchdowns in this game. You think about the 2 overthrows that Jackson Arnold had, certainly the one in the end zone where Cam Coleman made a kind of diving effort for it, and another deep ball that they didn't connect on. Then obviously they had the trick play where Gentry got away with
open there too.
Yeah. It's like Auburn still scored on that drive, but they're fortunate that Cam Coleman didn't have like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. Yeah. Listening to Brent Venables after the game, I think was very telling about the confidence that they still have in Cortland Guillory. He's like, look, all the great ones are going to have, games where they just want to go and hide. And it's like, hey, coach, can I get some safety help? But they kept putting him on an island there. I don't think it's going to shake Cortland's confidence, which, we know he's brimming with. But it's a good learning experience. But it wasn't just him. I mean, Gentry got burned on a couple plays. I think Jacoby and Davon got cooked on a couple routes there by Cam Coleman too. But you also think, coming out of this bye week, you're probably going to have Eli Bowen back. Both him and Giovanni Gibson were removed from the availability report right before the game.
He dressed out first time.
Yeah, they went through warm-ups, but we were told that they were going through with the expectation that they would not see the field in this game. So I think getting Eli Bowen back really kind of helps fortify that cornerback position, because you're getting a guy that was a freshman All-American last season. We'll see how long it takes him to get reacclimated. But I think you should still have confidence in this group. But, we came into the season, it's like, yeah, cornerback was probably the big question of this defense, just because you didn't have a lot of experience outside of, Gentry and, his health, his injury history, and Eli Bowen coming into the year with his own injury. So it's still a little bit of a question, but I don't think it is a red flag glaring concern for this group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I said in the instant reaction, you're not going to shut down guys like Cam Coleman for an entire game. It's just they're going to get theirs eventually. Here and there, they're going to get it. They're going to win some matchups and some key plays. And I think that's what happens. So it's why I don't necessarily worry about this cornerback room, because it also Cortland Guillory is a true freshman. And before the game, I said this is the matchup I wanted to watch out for, was because that just wanted to see how he responded to playing a guy that's going to be like NFL first round draft pick, I think, overall. So it's like, how is he going to respond to that? And that was the key for me. And I think, as Brent Venables said, sometimes you're going to have one of those days where you want back. Like, all the great guys have that. And I think that's what's going to be for Cortland Guillory. Now, he's going to learn a lot from that matchup as well. He's going to be able to watch the tape and see some things that he can do better and just do well. But I don't necessarily worry about the cornerback room or the secondary as a whole, because the 9 sacks, a lot of those times there was
sacks.
Arnold it was just like covered sacks. Arnold was holding the ball for quite some time, and it allowed the pass rush to get there. And so that's the way I see it overall for just the room as a whole. I think it was fine. They had to rotate some other guys in there trying to figure that out. I know they wanted to have a safety over the top, but you also still were trying to stop the run game and had to have an emphasis on that, because that's what Auburn's really, really good at. And so I just think they did enough to win the game, which is all you really can ask for in that situation.
No, that's a great point. There were, multiple of the Arnold sacks were 3-4 seconds of him holding the ball before anyone got there. So that's a great call. I agree. I think, honestly, even watching the game back this morning, the coverage was okay on a few of those. Cam Coleman is just awesome and just high point of the ball and 50-50 tough contested catches. The one down the sideline whenever they were backed up inside their own 5 when Arnold just kind of threw it out there over Cortland Guillory. I mean, he's right there, hand in the face, and Cam Coleman's he's one of those guys, right? I mean, makes a really nice, tough, contested catch. The PI that set up the touchdown to put him in the lead, was it uncatchable? I don't know. We can do the ref thing here in a minute, but those are really good receivers. You're not going to shut them down the whole game, like James said. I'm not too worried about it. And like Tom, I mean, you're going to get Eli Bowen back here soon. He dressed out for the first time in this game, so think work to be done, but I don't think you're freaking out just yet either. I think that's probably a fair place to land on it. Yeah. Anything else defensively? Go ahead.
I think the big.
I was going to say these other SEC teams have blue chip recruits too. Like,
I know
that's the thing. You are going against talented players, and certainly
Auburn has a great
roster. A former 5-star guy, and he's got that pedigree for a reason. I mean, he's going to be playing on Sundays for a long time, I think. So yeah, I think it was a good learning experience for Cortland Guillory. Certainly a tape that is, he's not going to have fun going over that film, but there's going to be some things that he can take away from it and try to get better at.
Sure.
I think one of the things that OU fans are most frustrated about is Cam Coleman just pretty much ruined everything Grayson Miller accomplished in that game. Like those deep punts that he got, it was like, all right, we're our backs against the wall. Let's just throw up to Cam Coleman and see what he can do.
That one punt where the Auburn returner fielded inside the 5 was like, how far was that in the air? Like 60 plus.
66, yeah.
It was a bomb, absolute bomb.
Sure. 65 in the air and a -1 yard return.
Yeah, I don't know why he fielded it, but it was a bomb for sure. Just lost.
Well, I believe you just forget where you're at on the field when you start running that far back. It's like
you don't even know. Would have went to the end zone, but it was a bomb.
Yeah, Auburn special teams. I think Oklahoma won that battle overall.
No doubt.
They had a few costly mistakes there.
Grayson Miller has been great. He's totally just taken that job. And then Tate Sandell, again, another perfect day. Got the long field goal early to get them the lead. Don't overlook that. So, yeah, great day on that side. Anything else defensively? I thought Peyton Bowen was really good. He almost had a pick 6 early in the game. He really just read it too good. He jumped it, and it was kind of behind him. If he had timed it a little bit better, that's a house call all day.
That would have been the most, timely pick 6 ever, because I don't know if you saw his Instagram story the night before the game.
You mentioned it on the instant reaction, the Kobe Bryant Pau Gasol thing. Yeah.
I thought if he had caught that, I thought he was going to be like Forrest Gump and just run through the end zone, run through the tunnel, and keep running toward Noble.
Gosh, so close to a huge play. They still don't have a turnover. Also, they got this game.
That is crazy.
They're the only team in the country without a turnover.
Yeah, and for the defense to be that good without forcing a turnover, and they've had their opportunities, but also, like I said, they're forcing 3 and outs on 43% of opposing drives. So it's you should have a handful of turnovers by now, because guys have just dropped interceptions or not been able to corral a ball or jump on a fumble. But opposing teams just aren't having enough offensive success to be able to generate turnovers consistently at this point too. But regarding Peyton Bowen, I mean, this is what we all thought he was going to look like. Him and David Stone have looked like 5 stars.
Yeah.
Eli Bowen, Peyton Bowen, we've talked about, the foot and ankle injuries he dealt with the last couple of years. Now that he's healthy, he looks like the real deal. David Stone has taken that leap from year 1 to year 2. So they're getting these 5-star guys to develop and really click and be dudes. Still waiting for PJ Adebawore to kind of take that step too. He did do some nice plays in this game. I think at least one of Jaden Jackson's sacks were because PJ got into the backfield and forced Jackson all up into the pocket and right into Jaden Jackson. So he's still contributing in a meaningful manner. But to get guys like Peyton and David Stone to play pros has been huge for this defense, taking the leap forward, I think.
No doubt. Been a lot of fun to watch. This defense can give them a chance to win a lot of games. We'll kind of do that State of the Union a little bit in just a bit as far as how far this defense can take them. Let's get into the offense a little bit before we do that, though. So what do we think of the offense on Saturday? By far, definitely their least effective day they've had so far this season, early in the year. It wasn't very good for a lot of this. John Mateer, in particular, did not. The first half was definitely his worst half in an OU uniform. He just wasn't real sharp, just kind of missing guys. It was only 8 of 16 at the break, but he closed it phenomenally. He was sensational down the stretch, completed his last 11 passes. That final drive when they were trailing, I mean, for the first time all season, they're trailing, and it's only 7 minutes and change left to go. And they go right down the field. Mateer drops that throw in a bucket to Isaiah Satania down the sideline, then runs it in, take the lead. I thought that showed a little something. There's definitely some concerns here. They couldn't run the ball at all. Offensively, what did we think, though? I mean, again, it wasn't great. They made some big plays, shot themselves in the foot, but they did come up with the huge drive late when they had to have it. They're literally trailing 7 minutes to go. We need points, and they went and they scored a touchdown that ultimately won them the game. Where are we at offensively right now? Because Auburn's defense really got the better of them for most of the day on Saturday. But again, they stepped up when they had to late.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they delivered late, and John Mateer got off to a shaky start. I think he was 8 of
19. Yeah,
start, and then completed 16 of his last 17 passes. And I think a lot of that was also, they went empty sets a lot of the time in the second half there, and it was just kind of using that short passing game to basically make up for a lack of a run game. And he really thrived there in the second half. Still getting some of those explosive plays, through 4 games, they have more 20-yard passes than they had all of last season. I forgot what the exact number is now, but they have more than 21 of them so far. So he's still doing some good things. It wasn't his best game, but like you said, when they needed him most, like he delivered in that last drive. Like they struggled to move the ball at times throughout this game. Then they're trailing by 1, and they go down and go 75 yards in 6 plays.
Yeah, right down the field.
Yeah, that catch by Isaiah Satania was huge, and we can get more into his day in a minute because that was the biggest game of his career, but also just like the strangest game of his career. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a player like involved in more like
that's what I said.
Weird, odd plays.
Yeah,
and still have that kind of game. But yeah, I mean, look, I think the lack of a run game right now is concerning. I don't want to read too much into this one performance though, just because your offensive line was banged up, man. You had 2 guys out there that couldn't move, and Jake Michael and Fabechi Wiwu, and like salute to them for playing through those ankle injuries, and only giving up the 1 sack on the day for that offensive line. But it felt like Oklahoma really had to rework what it was trying to do in the run game because it had offensive linemen that couldn't move and pull like they wanted to sometimes. Michael Fasusi, went out there, played 9 snaps, did not look great. Came out and they stuck with Logan Howland, who did not have his best game. But I mean, Jake Michael had played well in pass protection. Derek Simmons was great in pass protection. Fabechi Wiwu didn't look like himself either. And Heath Ozida had kind of an up and down game. Again, I think this bye week comes at a great time, gives them a chance to reassess things through this first third of the season. We had the Kent State game going into Texas. So I think they're going to reevaluate some things and figure out what they need to do to kind of get the run game going a little bit more. But I think that this is going to be a team that is just going to have to lean into the passing game. Because you have a John Mateer who makes good decisions with the ball. You have a very capable receiving core. They have 3 guys already that have 100-yard receiving games this season. 3 different guys in 3 different games. Last year they only had 1, and that was J.J. Hester against an FCS opponent. So you have the weapons there. Jaron Cannett continues to be really great at tight end.
Yeah.
But, I just think that there's some things that they're going to have to reevaluate going into this bye week.
And like Tom said, with the offensive line, it was a 22% pressure rate throughout the game. And that's with them going empty a lot. Like I was telling Josh in the instant reaction, the fact that they were able to go empty against an SEC caliber defense like that defensive line they were playing, it's a great sign. Even though you can't run the ball, if you can block with just 5 guys and still make do with what you got, it's going to help out a lot because you can have those crossing routes over the middle of the field, down low where you can throw it and get those supplemental, I guess you can call it, so-called run plays for Oklahoma to keep it going. And that got John Mateer into a rhythm, as we talked about it after going 8 for 19 in that first half. It got him going, 16 to 17. It was a part of that, just finding his guys and getting a rhythm. So I think the offense, yes, they can run the ball a lot better. There's some things that they could do. I think getting healthy over this bye week, as you guys have said, is going to help out a lot in terms of that, in terms of what they can do. Deion Burke still has belief in Jaden Ott coming out there and doing something. He said he's a guy that's going to be, he's a guy to wait on. He's going to come out in here and show himself pretty well in the second half of the season. So just want to see what they can do. I think John Mateer is pretty much the focal point of this offense. I think everything goes through him. And so as long as you got him out there, everything's looking good for the offense, regardless of what can happen down the line.
Yeah, the offensive line, we talked about on Friday, beat up, but they held up really quite well in pass protection. Obviously, especially all things considered, with where Michaela and Fabechu-Wiwu was with those ankle things, and like Tom said, Fasusi got out there, wasn't the same, So they have the bye, and they have Kent State before Texas. That's really kind of what you're targeting. You're zeroing in on October 11th, Texas. Be healthy for that. Get everyone in good position for that. That's kind of where the mindset has to be. Definitely, let's get into the Satania stuff. So he has a huge day. I mean, he goes 9 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. He's been great the last couple of weeks, especially to go with Burks and Keontae Lewis, who did play in this game, and had an impact. Where he had 2 catches for 29 yards, had an impact a little, not a huge one, but an impact.
He had
Satania, go ahead.
I was going to say Deion Burks had that big one called back, and that gets
on the OPI, which I didn't love that call, but so it was a big day officiating wise. There was a ton of penalties in this game. That crew is more than willing to throw the flags. There was a lot. Auburn had more total penalties. Oklahoma had more yards of penalties. So I feel like that kind of washes out from a penalty perspective. But the 3 huge calls in this game, which coincidentally, like Tom said, all involved Isaiah Satania, that Auburn fans are upset about right now. And, fair. I mean, fans are going to be upset because they were all close. They're all 50-50 calls in some regard. So the first one being Isaiah Satania, looked like he fumbled on the first drive of the game, first Oklahoma drive of the game, and they returned it back for a touchdown. They went back and changed the call, which is kind of the key element there. They said he didn't ever possess it. They called it incomplete. Then you had the fake substitution thing, the deception play that everyone is debating about, where Satania looked like he was subbing off, didn't sub off. Auburn just totally never sees him. Wide open touchdown to put Oklahoma in the lead at 10-3. And then you have the play late where Satania catches it on the corner to set up the game-winning touchdown, which was ruled incomplete. And again, they overturn it, said he did possess it, didn't come out till he was already out of bounds. So all 3 of these calls obviously were huge, and they all benefited Oklahoma. They all went Oklahoma's favor.
The pick play.
Whatever you want.
The pick play was also Satania.
3 I'm referring to, the 3 ones.
Well, but also the first pick play was huge too, because it prevents Oklahoma from getting a field goal right before halftime.
Sure. What which call do you want to get into first? Obviously, the deception one is the one that's being very heavily debated, because the SEC actually released a statement saying it was ruled wrong on the field and shouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah. I mean, we should probably get into that one first, just because that was the topic du jour coming out of the game. I don't know if you guys saw Toby Rowland's report late last night. According to a source, Oklahoma in its pregame meeting with officials showed them that this play, or went over this play and made sure that what they were doing was legal. Now the SEC statement was not that Oklahoma cheated or anything. It's that the officials officiated it wrong based on the NCAA rulebook. I still don't know what to think one way or the other. Was there deception? Absolutely. That's
the whole point.
The whole point.
Was to deceive. Yeah.
Especially listening to Deion Burks after the game. He's like, I was jawing at Auburn's cornerback, trying to distract him so he didn't see Isaiah split out wide over there. It's they're obviously trying to deceive Auburn in some way. Whether that was legal or illegal or towing the line on those NCAA rules, I think that's up to interpretation. You go back and you watch the game, he didn't look like he was running out of bounds. They weren't substituting. He was in on the previous play. They didn't substitute anybody. He pointed to the official. Where he lined up is, I guess a subject of debate there. Auburn's coaches clearly saw it. They said, Hugh Freeze said they were trying to call a timeout and didn't get it. You see some of those video replays. It didn't look like he was signaling a timeout, but he was yelling at the official. He was probably trying to get the timeout, and that just went ignored. And I think for them, that more than anything should be Auburn's gripe, is that if they were calling a timeout and they weren't granted it in that situation, I would be upset if I were them. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think it all comes down to the officials messed up one way or the other. Either it was an illegal play that they failed to, call correctly, they gave Oklahoma bad information pregame, if that was the case too, or they just, failed to grant Auburn a timeout when they were trying to get it. Like I don't know. It was weird, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't change the fact that it was a touchdown for Oklahoma. Like, no matter what the SEC said after the game, no matter what statement they issued, they were not going to take a touchdown off the board in this game. And I know Auburn fans are going to have a lot of complaints about it. They've had a lot of complaints about it. I would feel a way about it too if that was my team on the other end of that. But, Oklahoma was going to score on that drive one way or the other. They were in field goal range. Like, they got the ball at the 13-yard line because of that botched punt snap. Like, even though they got backed up to start that drive, they were going to score one way or the other with Tate Sandell or a touchdown on that drive. So the fact that it was 7 points in a 7-point game, that's moot to me. Like, it would have been a 3-point game then. Or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just think there's a whole lot more being made about it than should have been made.
A lot of my gripes about it is first off, I don't like that people are saying that Oklahoma cheated. Like, it was like they intentionally cheated on the play. That's not necessarily the case, because they even said it in the interviews when we were talking to them. They were practicing that play throughout the week. So that means that they had already talked to the officials about if this is a legal play, and they were told it was. Like, so that part's in there. Like, they worked on it as a trick play, because all trick plays are supposed to be deceitful. That's the entire point.
The purpose of the game of like any competitive game is to try to find an advantage in the margins that you can exploit against the other team. And whether that's a trick play, whether that's whatever, like, you're doing your due diligence to try to find advantages.
And the fact that when you go back and look at it, Satania points at the referee, gets a thumbs up, like, you're lined up right, and there's no flag. It's like, I don't like people that are calling Oklahoma cheaters for that. That's not the case. The whole point of the statement that came out, which I think was a knee-jerk reaction from the conference, it was a little early even to do that, was because they wanted to say, okay, yeah, we did that wrong. Like, the officials did it wrong. It had nothing to do with Oklahoma trying to cheat or anything. It's a trick play, is what it is. And so that's the two gripes I really have about it. It's like, it was more towards the officials. Like, some were even reading into there's going to be I can't remember the last line of the statement said something about there's going to be a punishment. I don't know what it had referred to.
The officials,
but it was talking about, it wasn't about the score of the game. Yeah, they weren't going to talk about changing it. It was about the officials. The officials are going to have the punishment or the recourse or whatever. They were going to talk about it there internally for them to fix that so it doesn't happen again from here on out. So those were kind of the things that I noticed about it. I just really didn't like about it. And then to assume that if Oklahoma had the call, maybe it was called back, to assume the rest of the game plays out the exact way to where it's a tie game at the end is ridiculous. The different situations calls for different schemes, different plays. Guys react differently. And so even if they don't get a field goal, the game is going to be played differently. The same touchdowns don't happen. Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't take one touchdown out and everything else happens in the exact same way. It doesn't work like that. So the score would have changed dramatically either way. So there were some things I didn't like about it. But as I said, Oklahoma had practiced the play throughout the week. They really worked on it, and they made sure they got it right, because Deion Burke said, hey, it worked against our defense. That's why I knew it was going to work against theirs. Like, they practiced it. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I just don't understand. Well, the broadcast made it worse, because the rules analyst on the broadcast basically was very hard of this should not have been allowed, which is, I'm certain that's what got Auburn fans more upset, because every Auburn fan who's not at the game, which is the vast majority of the fan base, is hearing that saying, man, we just got robbed of a touchdown that shouldn't have counted. And, they put out this statement, unfair tactics and hideout are the two words that they used a bunch. Hide, that's insane. You're on the football field. That's
I mean, he was like 2 feet from the sideline. Like,
sure, but he never left the field. Like, right. I mean, they have 11 guys that's on the field. You know what I mean?
The whole outrage is is it viewed as a feigned substitution, which is something that they've been trying to crack down on. And like that is the topic of debate here, like whether he looked like he was coming off the field, but like he wasn't jogging off the field. He just kind of walked over there and pointed to the official. It's I don't know.
Just need more clarity on what, because I mean, if we're judging, what do we judge? Like the body language? I mean, yeah, he's kind of walking. Like obviously, yeah, it does kind of like he's subbing, but like that's not up to that's not on Oklahoma to like, you make sure it's very clear that you're not subbing like that. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Okay,
so,
but he pointed to the referees. My like if he was jogging and then it's a tempo play and he just stops and then the play starts, that's more deceitful than going to the referee and I'm lined up pretty much. Like, yes, I think the play necessarily probably shouldn't have counted overall because of how the rules are, but also Auburn has to count hats. Like, you got to know who's in the game, what's going on. In flag football, just to point it out, in flag football, you have to line up 5 yards off of the sideline. So, like, it's a very clear rule of what has to happen. I haven't seen that anywhere in the rule book for the actual football. And so, like, that's part of it. Like, how do you, like, there's no area you have to line up at. You have to have so many guys on the line of scrimmage. And they did that. It was all a part of it. It's like, we asked you guys if this is going to be a legal play, and you all said yes, and we practiced it. We did it in the game, and you all said it was fine. To now have the outrage is ridiculous. That's my own.
It was a weird play. Play.
At the end of the day, I think if there's anybody like at fault for this, it is the officials. Like one way or the other, they probably screwed something up, which is why the SEC is going to handle it internally. What will end up probably happening is that they're going to get pulled off of a game assignment for 1 week. No one's going to hear about it unless you're like actually going through every single like matchup and seeing if these same officials are calling a game somewhere next week. That's all that's going to happen.
Sure. What about the other two? At the risk of sounding like a huge homer, I thought they both were right. Now, they're both really close, and they both overturned them, which is where I can see if you're an Auburn fan being like, man, was there enough to overturn these? The first one, when it happened in the moment, I thought, oh, boy, that looks like a fumble to me. But as I watched it back this morning, I don't know. He gets hit pretty quick. If you say he didn't have possession, I could kind of buy that. I definitely think the second one, it takes multiple steps, and he was pretty well out of bounds before he lost it. I think they were both the right call, but they both were close. And again, the fact they had to go back and overturn both of them is where I think if you're an Auburn fan, you're like, man, like you couldn't at least just leave it on the field on both of these. I don't know. What'd you think? The other two, right, wrong?
I think the first one was probably closer than the second one.
Yeah.
I was surprised they ruled it incomplete. Like, I think it was close one or the other. I thought that he might have been down instead of it being incomplete. But yeah, man, like I get it. If you're an Auburn fan, you're upset because that takes 7 points off the board for you right there, right out the gate, getting a defensive touchdown when that your offense is not necessarily going to be able to move the ball consistently against an Oklahoma defense. Like, that is huge. That is a huge swing for Auburn there. The second one, I thought in real time that he caught it. Even when you see the ball get poked out at the end, it was after he had established possession and after he had gotten out of bounds. So I think that one was definitely the right call. And man, what a throw by John Mateer, by the way. Like, he just dropped that in the bucket. Great concentration by Isaiah Satania to pull that in. He obviously, had a big day despite, being involved in all these controversial calls here. But yeah,
they weren't consistent on how they got those two calls, I think, because like I saw Isaiah Satania bobble the ball on the fumble type play. I saw him bobble it, but he came down. I think his butt hit the ground before the pop came out. And like, he made a football move before that happened. And so like, if you call that incomplete, like they called it an incomplete pass, not him just being down. If you call that an incomplete pass, then the other one on the sideline, you would have to think is similar because he makes a football move, he catches the ball, makes a football move, and then it's popped out. Like, I think those should have been kind of the exact same way. So for me, I thought Isaiah Satania was down. Oklahoma should have got the completed pass, him being down. And then the other one I thought was a clear catch. Because I think if you call it one way, you have to call it the other way on the other one as well. Because I think it's like the same thing almost. Like, it's just he wasn't falling to the ground that time. Like, that's the way I see it overall. I think they messed up that part. But also I think both plays should have been in Oklahoma's favor because I think Satania was down on the first one and he's caught the second one. So that's the way I saw it.
It was a wild day for the officials. A lot, and the OPI, which you kind of mentioned, was also Satania. I didn't think that was OPI. I thought it was
the
right.
First one wasn't
route. The one before halftime.
Yeah, the first, he was called for 2 OPIs. Both.
Yeah, the second one, I don't.
I think the second one was a pick play. I think the first one he was just running an out route and like the defenders just kind of got crossed up. But I mean, again, that negates a big catch and run for Deion Burks that would have had Oklahoma basically in field goal range right before halftime. So that was a tough break for Oklahoma, one that did not go their way in a game that was full of some questionable calls and some questionable.
And then you have, the PI on the trick play. Like, people keep talking about that. Probably a missed call, but they scored the drive anyway. So
they still scored. Yeah,
they scored anyway. And it game after, Cortland Guillory probably held him, Cam Coleman, but they didn't call holding. They called PI, which the throw was not catchable. So now if they called holding, I think he probably did hold him, but they didn't call holding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I agree. And then when Auburn went for it on fourth down, down there in the red zone, Oklahoma had them stopped on that run play.
Yeah,
the Reds blew the play dead, false start or illegal shift, whatever it was. Auburn gets another shot at it on 4th and 6, and they convert. So like Auburn got some breaks in that game too. Like, it was just a very, I think on one hand, yes, these teams committed penalties and they need to be called for them. It was not the cleanest game one way or the other. But also the officials, I just felt like did not have a good grasp on this game, like from the jump.
Yeah,
it was a tough game to officiate for the first game, like the opener of the conference play. Like, it was a tough game to officiate. I'll give him that.
That same crew did LSU Florida the week before, and it was very similar. A lot of penalties. That crew is a little
it's the same. Well, never mind. Yeah, never mind.
That crew's a little flag.
You're into it.
I'm pretty sure that's what they said on the broadcast. It's a little flag happy, that crew. But at the end of the day, Auburn had the lead with 7 minutes left. Oklahoma went down the field, scored, and then stopped them back the other way. So at the end of the day, a lot of calls. It feels like it was decided on the field at the end. Whatever you make of all those controversial calls, like, it was Auburn had every chance to win that game late and didn't do it. I guess is kind of what I get to at the end. We kind of talked about it a little bit already before, but to kind of wrap up the offense, the run game. I mean, how concerned are we actually here? I mean, they didn't run the ball at all, like we said. We kind of talked about this already, but Torrey Blaylock,
11 for 13.
Yeah, 13 yards. Barnes only got 1 carry. That was it. I mean, John Mateer didn't really run much in this game either. No Xavier Robinson carries. He did play, but didn't get a carry. No Jay Nod at all. Like James referenced, Deion Burks, interesting comments about Ott, kind of saying like basically don't give up on him, sort of a thing. And it was, I think everyone kind of has, at least the fans have. Maybe he can get back in the mix at some point. Taylor Tatum, we haven't seen it all yet either. Where are we at run game wise? And is it still like we're good with Blaylock and Barnes? Do they need to get X-Rob more involved? Do they need to get Ott an opportunity? Like, what do we think there? Run game wise, because again, they didn't run the ball at all, and they're going to need to be able to run the ball better than they did in this game to continue to win. It feels
yeah. Again, I think the run game is a bit of a concern. I think this game kind of made it seem even worse, just because again, banged up offensive line guys that couldn't exactly move and execute some of the runs that were working for them through these first 3 weeks of the season. Getting those guys healthy, I think, should help. But you're not going to be able to run the ball against Texas if you're doing what you did against Auburn. That's just a statement of fact. You're going to play defensive lines that are just as good or better than Auburn's in these next 2 months. So they need to find a way to run the ball more effectively. Figure out what schemes work for your personnel. Now that you know what your offensive line is going to be. Hopefully, once you get those guys healed up and get Michael Fasusi back in there too. But yeah, I mean the run game just has not been very good. Like, they're going to lean on John Mateer to help supplement the run game. I think that, like I said before, they're going to need to, be a more pass-heavy offense. And even using some of those short passing, some of that short passing game to kind of add on to the run game, even if it's, not a traditional run, you can use it as an extension of the run game with some of those short, quick passes that we saw there in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they looked good against Temple. I think the run game was there against Temple. So I think you see some where you can have success if you play that way. But I think, as Tom just said, you go against that defensive line and you have the injured offensive lineman that you had. Well, not injured, but banged up. It changes how you handle that situation. Because I think it was like last week we were talking about Blaylock being the top running back. And it was like, that's the guy that proved that he's the guy. So, I still believe that at this point in time. I think Barnes is still the best pass blocker, which is why he gets the starts pretty much throughout the season. but Blaylock is going to be the best runner. But also, I want to see what Xavier Robinson can do because he came on late last season.
Yeah, I agree.
Now it's time to really see what he can do again because once again you're playing him 3 snaps a game. I don't know how many he had in this one. I think it was 3 on the PFF. It was 3 snaps in that game where he didn't get a carry. So like he's just out there, burning a redshirt opportunity, doing stuff like that. If he's out there, give him the ball and see what he can do because he's a powerful runner as well as we talked about with Torrey Blaylock. So want to see what he can do, and I'm still holding out on Jay Knotts. What's going to happen? But I think most of it is just like the offensive line was banged up in terms of why they had lack of a run game in this one, and the Auburn's defensive line was pretty good. So I think that all plays into it as well going into it.
Yeah, get the O-line healthier. I still like Torrey Blaylock as the top guy right now for sure. But yeah, I only 1 carry from a non-Blaylock running back in this game. It was Javonte Barnes. So yeah, get it. I agree. I'd like to see Xavier Robinson get a little more involved. And Jay Knott, he's got to do it during the week. He's got to earn the opportunity on Saturdays, which it doesn't seem like he's doing. But, after the bye, who knows? Maybe he can still get in there. We saw it, right? We saw it in camp. Just like not even talking to people, which that too, but that first practice we were out there, the way he can go, man.
He was moving well. Yeah.
I have a hard time believing like he can't help if he's at full steam, you know what I mean? But he's got to do it and he's got to buy into it. And so it's on him too. It's not like Oklahoma's, muzzling him. He's got to go earn it, so there's some questions here for sure. There's some
the running back snap count of 66 plays was Torrey Blaylock 52, Javonte Barnes 12, and Xavier Robinson 3.
Yeah, they had one play where they had a split backfield in the shotgun. So that's why it doesn't quite add up.
I don't know. There's questions here. I'd still like Torrey Blaylock. It's not like I'm off the Blaylock train after this one game, but there's questions, and we'll see what they do against Kent State. Maybe that's an opportunity to work a lot of dudes and kind of get Ott going. Maybe we thought that against Temple, and they didn't do it then. So who knows? So we shall see. But offensively, again, got the big drive late when they needed it. Still some encouraging things there. So to kind of close it out here, we're going to the bye week now. You have the week off, Kent State next week, and then Texas coming up on October the 11th. I asked you guys after the Michigan game, can this team be a CFP team? Going to ask you again 2 weeks later. CFP team, but beyond that even, can they compete for an SEC title? Can they compete for a national title if you want to do that? Like, how are we feeling about this squad after, another big game, another big win? Again, at home, the games are going to get tougher. You're going to play better teams, and you're going to go on the road eventually. Some of these road games look tough right now, especially like Knoxville. They look tough right now, right? So how are we feeling about this squad, though? Going into the bye, 4 games in, what's realistic in your guys' mind as far as what can still be what can this team accomplish this season right now with after what the defense just did and what that defensive line especially just did?
Yeah, look, as long as the defense is playing as good as it is overall, you're going to be in every one of your games. Can they contend for a college football playoff spot? Absolutely. Am I ready to pencil them in as a college football playoff team? No. I still have questions about this team. I want to see the secondary improve a little bit at corner, like we were talking about. Offensively, the offensive line, they need to get those guys healthy, and they need to get that run game going in some way. Again, I think that the passing offense is going to be better than the running offense, but you need some semblance of balance there to keep teams honest moving forward, because you're going to play better defenses in Auburn coming up over these next couple months. So we'll see. I don't know if my feeling about where Oklahoma is overall has changed drastically in the last 2 weeks since the Michigan win. I think that they're where they need to be. If you were 3-1 going into the bye week, you'd be a little bit more concerned, obviously. But 4-0, you should be 5-0 heading into that Texas game and that 2-month stretch to close the season. That's going to be really difficult. But yeah, they have a long way to go still, but they're where they need to be at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I think they could compete for an SEC title just because I think they're at a point to where I've seen enough from the other college football teams in Oklahoma that Oklahoma's can win every game on their schedule. They're not. There's never going to be a team I think that they just can't win this game. Like I felt a lot of times last year. I think Oklahoma, if they play well in the right spots in the right situations, that they can do well and win those games. Now, I'm not saying they're going undefeated. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they have a chance in every game to win those, and I think that helps out. And I think they're one of the leaders in the conference. I mean, they're number 7 in the nation and number 3 in the conference, I think, overall. So like they've proven already with the resume that they're up there. They have, I think, the best resume in college football with 2 ranked wins over anybody else. So I mean, it all plays a part. You know, it plays a part in that. It's just, can they sustain it over time? Can they get better over time while, you know, staying healthy? I think that's going to decide the season for Oklahoma. But I think if everything is right as way, they have enough to win an SEC conference championship. That's where I see it. Yeah,
no, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they have a national championship level defense. I really believe that. I don't know what more the defense can prove. I mean, there's still some questions, like we talked about earlier, with the secondary and corners. But man, the way the defensive line is going, I'm in on the defense. Offensively, there's still questions. They're gonna have to do this on the road. You know what I mean? I want to keep reiterating that. Like, they haven't gone on the road yet. That's going to have to happen.
That's a good point.
There's still so much volatility with the season because it's what the schedule is. Like, you can tell me this team can win 9-10 games. Mm-hmm. That's totally on the table. They could also still easily lose four or more, right? Because I think all these games are going to be close. What we saw on Saturday is going to happen several more times. They're probably going to be down in the fourth quarter. First test, answered it. They trailed the fourth quarter against Michigan and against Auburn. They played great football in the fourth quarter to win both those games. They're going to have to continue to do that because I think probably literally all 7 of these next SEC games that they have are going to be one-score games in the second half. And then can they go, make the big stops, get the big score? So they definitely can, but will they week after week after week?
Yeah,
we're going to find out.
So that's the question.
I think, it's certainly a playoff team. I think they can compete for an SEC title. I think that's all on the table right now. But, if you told me that they lose, 3-4 games, that's also on the table because they're going to be in a lot of close games the rest of the season. But I think if you're an Oklahoma fan, it's fair to think big. It is. It's totally fair to think big because they're going to have a chance to win every game they play.
Yeah. Not to look too far ahead, but that Texas game in 3 weeks, is that going to be like a 14-10 game with these defenses?
It might be, man. It's defensive showdown coming up. That's going to be so fun. I can't wait for that. And, Oklahoma, barring a all-time disaster next weekend, they're going to be 5-0. They're number 7 in the AP poll. So they'll be, you would imagine not lower than that. Maybe a spot or two higher, top 5. Texas doesn't blow it in Gainesville. You're looking at a top 10 matchup at the Cotton Bowl, which, we said going into the year, if Oklahoma's going to have the season they want to have, they probably need to be 5-0 going to Dallas. And they've done that. They've accomplished that. One Kent State victory notwithstanding, which, again,
I still think 9 wins gets Oklahoma into the playoff. But my only, I guess, like, I'm looking at it as like, if they say they go 7-0 or something like that, something crazy, and they only get 2 more wins from that schedule, like they limp into the, the final spot, would they still get the benefit of the doubt of their tough schedule? Like, would the voters still think, okay, they're still good enough because of the resume they've already accomplished to put them in, but they're limping into it? Like, I think that part plays a part into it as well for me. Yeah. So we'll see if 9 win actually does it, but I think that can be a problem there too.
Well, the way the schedule lays out too, and we talked, you got Missouri and LSU at home to close it. So it's like you hope you could try to win at home, to end the year, but I don't know. It's a good point. It's going to be a heck of a schedule, and buckle up because that game on Saturday was nuts. And I think we're probably going to have a bunch more of those. It's probably the way the season's going to go. That's the SEC, and that's the schedule that Oklahoma has. Wild game. Oklahoma wins it 24-17. They're 4-0. We're now into the bye week. Programming note, as far as like bye week stuff, no player interviews tonight or Venables presser tomorrow. We are going to talk to Brent Venables and players on Wednesday, though. So keep an eye out for that on Wednesday evening. And then Thursday, Colin Kennedy and I will be back for the recruiting show, and we'll get into some other kind of stuff here on the bye. And then we'll have a weekend off, catch our breath a little bit, and we'll be back next Monday to kind of get reestablish ourselves as we move into the second phase of the season, that October gauntlet, which starts off nicely with Kent State, but after that, it's brutal. And we'll kind of set the stage for that a little bit next Monday. So keep an eye out for that. Interviews Wednesday, Colin Kennedy on Thursday, and we'll be back, 3 of us, a week from today. I think that's it. Wild game. I think we covered everything or close to it, at least. It went about an hour here, so long show. Had a lot to talk about. We'll be back on Thursday with Colin Kennedy. For Tom Green, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway. Signing off for now. We'll see you next time right back here, as always, on Sooners Illustrated.
See you.